I gotta double check her. I don't want to put
Okay.
words in her mouth, but yeah, she actually, when I met her, she was like, I do horoscopes and stuff, and I'm like, I'm a skeptic. But she did, and I was like, I mean, like knowing virtually nothing about me, other than I was extremely handsome and charming.
Of course.
Really?
You know me.
I mean, what?
But yeah, it tripped me out because I was like, wow, there's a lot. There's
something to this?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't necessarily, some things weren't terribly specific necessarily, but it was like this year, this, something major, this year, this happened. You're sort of ruled by your throat and it's like, I get like, it was sort of scaringly spot on for
Oh, are
somebody
you
skeptical.
Are you a Taurus, Gabe?
Yes.
Oh, I'm. Oh, huh. Meow.
Okay, look who's
I'll
popping
bow
in.
down.
Look
He
who's
better not
popping-
be.
Look who's popping in.
He better not. Don't let him in, man. That ain't right. Some of us got here before.
I'm gonna tell him. We're
I
not
think
letting
if
you
you
in.
allow this kind of behavior, it's going to continue. That's
There's some fighting words, man.
Just saying.
Hi, Tom.
Hey,
Hi,
you're lucky.
Tom. Good to see you, man.
Hello.
You're lucky you got in. Mr.
I know.
We're
I
all
consider
so
myself
glad.
lucky.
There was,
I blame Zoom. I had to get an update. I was trying to get on, and then there was an update.
I had an update too. I was like, what?
We're gonna start having a blocking moment.
I
Okay,
know.
so it was.
Thank you, Julie.
Oh, you're welcome. Although I do have to say, Gabe, sorry, Julia, sorry, Tom. Gabe might be my favorite this week. Gabe showed up to the San Diego Festival of Books.
Yeah.
There was a
hurricane got
hurricane.
in your way.
There was a
Exactly.
hurricane. Oh, you wimps!
Only a hurricane would keep Julia and me away, and it took
Yeah.
a once
And
in
an
a lifetime
earthquake.
hurricane.
And on top of that, an earthquake.
A 1 every 100-year episode.
Exactly.
I,
Otherwise,
The
we're there.
convergences.
I think that's valid.
Yeah, wimps.
Neither rain, nor snow, nor sleet or night. Will
Afraid
keep
to
us
leave my
away.
house. What are you talking about?
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, it was like that was the winds at our house. But I'm not making fun of it because it's going to be one of those things that one of these times it is going to be really bad and we're all going to be like, holy cow. So
It's bad in the desert. Palm
Yes.
Springs is like under mud.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
yeah.
the desert's
It's and that's
a-
what I was trying to explain. I think it was to my sister. It's just like San Diego, we're a big county. So it's like there might not be anything happening at the coast or inland, but it's just like you get out into our mountains and deserts, and it's like so they have to think of San Diego as a whole.
Yeah.
So they have to be extra cautious. I just hope people don't go and do the cry wolf thing the next time it happens. It's like, oh, it was nothing last time.
Right.
Right.
But we had the Festival of Books on Saturday. It was a good day.
Yeah.
It was our record day for Warwick's at that.
Cool.
So,
It was
Yeah.
Mom's. I was last year. I went.
Wow.
I went about the same time. Park, like I told you, parked right on top of the parking structure.
Right.
And this time I was like behind a ton of traffic all the way down at the bottom. And
Wow,
it-
that's
like,
fantastic.
there might have been like 8 spots left
Yeah.
in the parking structure when I rolled out at a little before 11, and it
Yeah.
started at 10.
10. Yeah, it started at 10. So that was
Wow.
record day. Spent
So
the
Warwick's biggest day at the festival.
biggest day at the festival
Wow.
Cool.
in the 7 years. So
Yeah,
it was
it's
it was
building year after year.
was very good. And then we had Alice Hoffman on Friday, which was all that I spent all day with her. Adore her. Love her to death. So that was really good. Julia, I'm reading In the Pines.
Isn't it good?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, heavy, but good.
So heavy. And it's good. We're gonna be talking about this book for quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's from a white woman's perspective.
Yeah.
On lynching in the South and what her
Yeah.
family was. Yeah.
Her
So,
family was involved. Yeah.
involved. So I'm about halfway right now. So
Okay. All right.
and then I got to meet my boyfriend, Bernie Toppin.
Oh yeah. How
Did
was
he write a song for you?
I hope so.
Julie's
I hope
song.
I made that kind of impression that he went home and went, huh, I could have
Yeah.
read about that woman who was taking all the pictures.
Well, and
Tiny
from the
Dancer
picture,
sequel.
you took a picture with him, and from that picture, true love, it looked like to me.
True
Yeah.
love. He was, but no, so the UT, when they got him, it was just like he was gonna do this photo op. So they were kind of like, what do we do? And I said, I'll run your line for you. I got this, you know. So I had two of my peeps on either side of me. And the people at the UT were like, oh my God, that went so fast. Just like
Amazing.
kind of had this rodeo. His wife is his manager, and she was just like, thank you, that was great. So
Thank you from Hachette. Thank you for taking care of it. We
Yeah.
appreciate it.
because it was so anyway, so when he's got his other events coming up, is he doing any signed anything? Do you know?
Yeah, he's got an LA event at Live Talks.
Is he gonna sign any stock that we can buy?
Ooh, I
We'll
will
find that out.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Not that I know of, but I'll double check.
Okay,
for
all right. So with that, Amanda, are you talking books today, or are you gonna talk about any books?
I think I might disappear here.
Oh, okay. So you can stay on. I just wasn't sure if you're gonna talk.
We haven't seen your
No,
pics in a while. I mean,
Yeah.
No, I don't. I want y'all to have as much time as.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go Julia, Gabe, and Tom. So Julia, take it away.
Okay, sorry I missed last week, but
We missed you, but glad you're back
No.
this week.
to be quite honest with you, I went to see Valley Girl at the Alamo Draft House. It's like the 40th anniversary of the film Valley Girl.
yeah.
And my friend hadn't seen it, which I remedied immediately when finding that out. So
I love
So-
that, and that's an excuse to miss tea time.
yeah, I
Tea
had to
time, Valley Girl with a friend.
exactly.
We get it.
We get it.
Totally. Nicolas Cage, it was like his first movie. Okay, so this one came out like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, maybe. Sun House by David James Duncan. This is the galley. It's a hardcover. But this is a big, sweeping epic. It follows a number of characters, all of whom are sort of searching for something, for spiritual enlightenment, for things like that, and end up sort of in this commune in Montana. It's gorgeously written. The Montana, if you know Montana at all, the descriptions of Montana are just beautiful. David James Duncan, this is his first book in 31 years. His previous book was The Brothers K, which I know is a big hit and a lot of people really love. So this is the Sun House. It's been getting really great reviews. The Washington Post gave it a really great review. And just a really one to kind of sit with and sink your teeth into. So if you're doing a last weekend away or something like that before summer ends, this is the perfect book for that.
Sounds really good. Sounds like a good, just
I
interesting.
have never read him, but he's always those Brothers K. I think they're River Y maybe.
The River Y.
They're on my. I have them, but I haven't gotten to them yet. But I want to.
Yeah, they're
Totally.
must reads. I remember exactly where I was when I read The River Y in the 80s. And then I was just thinking, I didn't know it was coming, and I saw a review the other day, and I was like, oh my God, has there been anything since The Brothers K? And I go, that was over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember my friend George sent me a copy because nobody gives me books except my wife, my kids and my wife and my buddy George. And he brought me a copy of The Brothers K because he had just read it. He was a new reader as a grown-up. He really fell in love with reading when he was turning 30, and he was all excited, and it's a lovely book. River Y is a beautiful book. He's a great writer.
I agree.
So Diane's on here, and she was so excited because I think this is your book, How to Love Your Daughter.
Yes.
So she was excited because we had talked about it just briefly, I think, on here.
Yeah.
And then she went to an independent bookstore and recognized the title from Tea Time.
Amazing. Thank
So
you.
Attention.
I love that. We recommend some books that people are. And then I don't think the Sum of Us, I don't think that's either. Is that any of yours?
Isn't that
Is that Steve? I think it's Steve Atinsky, maybe.
who's the author?
I can't remember. I can look it up. I'll look it up, but I don't think it's any of you all there. It's the One Book, One San Diego. So I think you guys.
Oh no, you're right. I think it's either Steve or
Steve
Wade.
or Wade. Yeah, it's it's either Steve or Wade. But anyway,
Heather
so that's
McGee.
the one.
Heather
So-
McGee is the author.
Yes. All right, Gabe, what are you going to talk to us about today?
I'm going to show you a book that goes on sale tomorrow. Tell Me What I Am by Una Mannion. Una caught us by surprise last year with a book called Crooked Tree. Was one of those new authors no one had ever heard of. It had a jacket that it was a good jacket. It just was kind of ordinary looking. It didn't really stand out in any kind of way. But the reviews were really, really strong. So she writes a really taut tension line. And in this book, there is a mother-daughter, actually a niece and an aunt and a niece. Ruby is the young lady. Nessa is her sister has disappeared, and she feels that her husband killed her and made her body disappear. The body was never found. So she's sure that her father, that Ruby's dad killed his mom. And Ruby lives with her dad, and the way he tells the story is that was the year that your mother abandoned us. But Nessa knows that there's something wrong, and she's very convinced that he's a bad guy. And through looking back at the sisters growing up and their shared experience and their trauma, and bringing Ruby coming of age with her father under her father's thumb, her main focus in life seems to be to keep her father happy. So the way it's told, you don't see that there's anything wrong, but you do see Ruby acting very strangely and efficient and always trying to please dad. So through this narrative, it's a suspense narrative, but it really is it is a thriller, mystery-ish kind of a book for sure, but it is a novel of domestic plight, of trauma, of abuse, legacy of abuse, and all that comes to light in this novel. And she does a brilliant job. The telling of the novel, the construction of the novel. There's good writing, and I've read some books that are beautifully written, but they really fall flat. This book, she's a really strong writer, and the crafting of the book, and what she does with it, and the way she does it, I think is really impressive. And I think she's a writer to watch. I think this is going to start garnering some strong reviews as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I was starting to look up the cover of Crooked Tree, but I don't know. I think I remember the did you change the hardcover to the paperback, I think, or no?
I don't think we did.
Okay. Yeah, because you're right. The paperback one, I was just like, because I kind of remember the title. But yeah, no, it looks like she's coming into her own.
Coming into her own. Yeah, it's good to see when you get a good, good sophomore effort. Sometimes they get lost in it's not the first novel, and there's a lot of competition out there, which is a shame for a good book. So I think this one should get a good look, and it doesn't disappoint on various. Again, there's a lot to talk about. It's a good, airplane book. It's also a good book club book.
Awesome. All right, Tom, what do you got for us?
All right, just in time for back to school. I have a book called Never Enough: When Achievement Culture Becomes Toxic and What We Can Do About It. So it's a really important book, and I think definitely a lot of the media is paying attention, because it's about parents today, how they feel trapped in terms of they want their kids to be happy, but they also want their kids to be set up for success, and maybe right now they're not seeing the path that is healthy for their kids. There's a lot of pressure, as we know, in achievement culture, especially in well-to-do communities. It becomes toxic, and you have to find a way. I think there is a need. I think parents will welcome this message that you can raise healthy kids, and they can be also, they'll be healthy. They can also achieve, but they don't have to be put under this pressure. I love this cover because you've got that pencil that is down to the bone, and it's broken.
It's a perfect cover.
So she's done, interviews with families, teachers. She did her own survey of 6,000 parents to uncover, what's really happening, and then to come up with ideas of how you can change the culture. I love how she calls them, like, what you want to achieve is healthy achievers, not just achievers, not simply achieving, and pressuring that, getting into the right college, getting into the, doing the exact right score on this test. And then she also talks about, now independence is important, but she values interdependence even more. Like both things are important, but we have to know how to work with each other, how to take, I guess also kids can get so, and parents can push them into this. Kids can get so into their own thing that they don't want help. They don't think they should ask for help when they need help.
It's a fear of failure. It's that
Yes,
it's
yes.
that fear of failure.
Yeah. So it's really a very empathetic but very clear picture of what is happening, and then what parents can do about it to raise kids that are resilient, self-confident, and psychologically secure. It's hard, but it's hard. It's especially in the world we live in today. And I hope I have two kids who are almost either out of college or almost out of college. I hope that we avoided the pitfalls, but I really wish we'd had this book, when we were, 10 years ago, 12 years ago. So Jenny Breheny Wallace is the author. Jennifer Breheny Wallace, she's writes for the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. She did one of her Wall Street Journal articles was called "Why Children Need Chores," which is one of the top 5 most read pieces in the Wall Street Journal. Anyway, I think this book will hit a nerve, and it's out in hardcover now. Never enough.
Sounds really good, because it's so easy to get caught up in the peer pressure thing, not just from the kids, but from the parents.
Yes.
Now the parents are even worse.
Oh yeah. Our generation, and I had to step back and look at our generation, Tom's and my peers, colleagues, etc. I mean, you sort of look at the level of attention college gets. I mean, I took my kids on a couple of college visits. I mean, there's people that are going to like 8, 9 colleges. There are people that are, spending a ton of money on applications and stuff. It's expensive.
Yeah.
Guilty
And
as
hindsight 2020 is just that they usually always end up where they belong. I mean, they
Yes.
usually do always, but it takes a while to get there. But it's like, to your point, Gabe, it's like, I applied to college, I think in May of my senior year. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll go to college. I mean, I went to San Diego State, which is, you could say whatever you want to say about that.
Not me. I have nothing but good things to say about San Diego State.
We've seen
Sure,
what they
you're not
put
aware,
out.
right? Hey, his daughter's going there.
No, it's you know what? The Cal State system puts. I was reading somewhere the Cal State system.
There, you see a lot of it.
But like 8% of like every American working in college graduate working in America is a Cal State alum.
Wow.
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 Cal State LA, which is my alma mater, that people look down on, is the #1 school in the nation, from bringing kids from the bottom percent up to the top, like 10%, 20%, something like that.
Wow.
So it's a real good solid programs that we have in state.
Right.
But I got caught up. I was caught up in it. I was just like, like, you should look at the Ivies, and we should look, you should go here, and you should.
Oh,
look
we're like I said,
we'll
the
pay
parents are
whatever
the
it
worst.
takes.
Yeah.
And it took me a second when Amanda was kind of more balanced about where she wanted to go, but she also was, part of her was like, we were kind of like, oh, you gotta start here, and then you end up, and your backup school's got to be a good backup school.
Yeah.
And but the kids sort of found their own level, and they moved away from the crazy. And Amanda was early on. She early admissions, and so she made it really super easy.
You mean
And
Tiger moms aren't a thing anymore? Damn.
Oh yeah.
I know they are a thing, but books like this try to hopefully. We, as the publisher of the Tiger Mom book, also.
But yeah, no. And then you add sports on top of it,
Oh yeah.
and then it's a whole other. Wait, I almost feel like I would need to go into consulting for some of these parents who have kids in like 8th grade, and it's just like.
Yeah, I totally agree, because you can't, and you're in the middle of it, you can't necessarily
You
see
can't
it.
see.
Can't
You
say
can't see it.
As soon as you're out of it, it's so clear.
It's so clear. And the thing that kills me is, in all these, and I'm going to go back to the parents, they're all lying. They're all saying that their kids, oh yeah, the Ivies are looking at us. And it's like, oh, BS. So anyways, I could have a whole soapbox on that.
Also,
anyways.
the East Coast is so cold. Oh my God. Why are you
Yeah,
going there?
And so I love it though. It's like I love these kids who go to Harvard or go wherever they're going to go, or Princeton, and then they come back and they're like a social studies teacher.
right, right.
Yeah, there's not a
With,
lot of.
with a lot of debt in that case.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna
So
send you my
genuine.
mom's address, Tom, and if you could just send her that book, that would be
Okay.
great.
All
I
right.
graduated high school 20 years ago, but she still needs it.
She still love it. Okay, Julia. What do you got next?
Never
never
enough.
enough,
Never
apparently.
enough.
Never
Julia.
enough. Even 20 years later, never
Yeah,
enough.
exactly.
Okay.
It was,
All right.
but there's a lot more competition when we were going. I mean, when I went to
It's true.
school, you
It's
could
true.
just walk, like Julie said, you
Yeah.
decided I'm gonna walk in.
I'm gonna
I took
go.
my SATs the very last day. I didn't even want
Right.
to tell you my SAT scores. I was not on the path to success.
Yeah, I won't tell you mine either.
But you can still get into college, you know,
Yeah.
but now it's a lot more competitive.
It is. The competition's going, but there's a whole conversation about that too. I just watched that thing on 60 Minutes last night too about like, you know, who's going to college, what's happening in college now, the demographics of it. And so it's pretty interesting. All right, Julia, what do you got next for us?
Okay. Well, this one kind of relates. This is called Sipping Dom Perignon Through a Straw. Reimagining Success as a Disabled Achiever. And this is about Eddie Ndupu, sorry. He is British. He went to Oxford or Cambridge, sorry, one of them, Oxbridge, as they call it in the UK. And he realized, you know, he had gotten in and he had like was such a high achieving student. And then he realized that like, as a person in a wheelchair, as a person that had like a pretty serious physical disability, that like he actually had to spend a lot of time navigating that and didn't get to navigate his studies as much. So it's this really like beautifully written, really like kind of, it's like hip and young, but like a memoir about being someone disabled, but then also like being someone disabled who's like listening to hip hop music and like wants to go out to the clubs and like things like that in this way that's, I think we really don't get to see it a lot, particularly in like disability sort of activism, this intersection of he's, you know, of African descent, and he's I don't know what the term is in Britain, but he is a British guy of African descent. And so like, you know, what does that look like as a disabled person? Anyway, he is really fun to read. It's like a really entertaining book to read, and also like teaches you a thing or two that maybe you don't know about disability activism and sort of like, you know, what kinds of things people who are in that sort of sphere are talking about and working on. So it's a really good one. Again, Sipping Dom Perignon Through a Straw. How can you say no to that title?
So, such a great title. But also it's just, I mean, it is something that, again, why we read and why we do this is to educate ourselves and to help build awareness for things that we think we might know, but we don't really know.
Exactly.
You know? And that's
And
those kind of books help.
It was written entirely using his one good finger. It says it right on the cover. So pretty impressive feat as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Thank you for doing that one.
Yeah.
Okay, Gabe.
Already? It's moving quick. Sorry. I was
What were you doing? Did you like zone out on us?
no, I was looking for something.
I can't.
I know,
We're all
sorry,
on the
I'm
edge of our
fast.
seat. What were you doing, Gabe?
What were you doing, Gabe?
Am I showing my screen?
No, you're showing Swim Home to the Vanished.
Yes,
So you're
that's
looking
what I
up
wanna
some on
show you.
PW. Oh, is that what you wanted to show us?
Yeah, but not that version of it. Show you my version of it. So Swim Home to the
There we
Vanished
go.
Ah, there we go.
by Brendan Shea Basham. So this is a debut novel based on the Dene traditions and the Dene creation stories. It's a really lush telling. Tommy Orange gives us a really great blurb. He's blurbing a lot of books lately. But so this is a story about what happens with a young man and how he deals with the grief of losing his brother. His brother not so much drowns as disappears is the way he tells it. So his brother drowns in the river, and his body's not found. So there's something about a loss when there's no body, there's like no closure. And that really plagues him. So the river swallowed up his brother, Kai, and he basically it's his considerably younger brother, not considerably younger, but much younger brother, and he's devastated. He's a line cook in a small town restaurant, and he just decides he's going to walk away from everything, and takes sort of this long, circuitous journey down to the very edge of the earth into a small Native American fishing village, where he meets a lot of scrutiny. He's an outsider, an important person of that society, has just passed away, and he comes on the scene right as she's being buried. He's sort of looked on, is he the spirit that killed the girl? The young woman's mother, Ana Maria, befriends our young traveler, and she's got this charismatic way. She's a bruja, so there's a little bit of magic in this book. There's a little bit of magical realism. There's comparisons a little bit to Murakami and Garcia Marquez. And so it's sort of this I don't want to say a fever dream necessarily, but it is this very involved story that is part myth, part actual narrative. Gets lost into the world of the creation myth, and so it ultimately he gets caught in this power struggle because he seems to feel that Ana Maria is responsible for her daughter's death. But he also befriends Ana Maria's dead daughter, the surviving daughter, and so she has lost a sibling, he has lost a sibling, so they have that in common. So they have this common bond, and he feels something towards her, and there's a power that's driving him towards her. So this book just resonates with a Dene creation story. The forced removal of the Navajo people from their land, the trail of tears, the capacity for grief and redemption, the lasting hold that grief and history, and a little bit like the previous book, trauma has passed down, and generational trauma has passed down. All that's explored in this really, I thought, a pretty strong narrative. I don't know how it works as a book, but I was very impressed with what the author did and the telling of the story. I found really interesting. Kirkus didn't find that it was. Kirkus doesn't like anything.
I was just gonna say.
But their take is always kind of the same thing. I didn't quite commit, but I just found this book really a compulsive read. It sucked me in. I just kept reading. It was kind of like when I read Umberto Eco's Name of the Rose. There were elements of that where you sort of have to stretch yourself a little bit to get to it.
I
But
love those kind of books though. They're
Yeah.
just like they make you think.
they make you think. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And the world that the world created is sort of this not quite another world, but it's another world.
Yeah. I
inside
love the
this very
cover.
real-
The cover is fantastic.
It's really cool.
Yeah, the cover is absolutely fantastic. And I like it, like you said. I mean, like I like it when you can't, it's not just completely straight narrative. You got to
Right.
kind of like figure it out, you know. I love books like that because
Every once in a while, you want to work your brain.
Yeah, it's gonna stretch you a little bit. Yeah, love it. All right, Tom.
All right, I'm going to stretch your brain. The Great White Bard, out, I think it's out tomorrow, or it was out last week. I'm not sure. I think it's tomorrow. How to Love Shakespeare While Talking About Race. So Farah Kareem Cooper is the Director of Education at Shakespeare's Globe Theatre and a Professor of Literature of Shakespeare Studies at King's College, London. But she's also a Pakistani American woman who fell in love with Shakespeare in high school. And I love this, recognized in Romeo and Juliet, quote, the archetypal South Asian teenage experience. So she saw herself in Shakespeare, but that doesn't stop her from wanting to look at the thorny aspects of race in the plays. And she's honest, she's direct. I mean, she comes at it as obviously a Shakespeare lover, but she says, if we don't interrogate his works, all we're doing is appreciating him rather than, really getting to really understanding him and getting to the heart of the time of Shakespeare and the plays themselves. So it's she analyzes the most famous plays and the most complicated plays. Just sort of complicated is a loaded word for Merchant of Venice, Othello, Antony and Cleopatra, even The Tempest. So she's come to like, this is a real deep, thoughtful, like books about Shakespeare need to keep coming out and need to keep refreshing our understanding of Shakespeare. And then that's what this book does. A couple of years ago, we published Shakespeare in a Divided America by James Kaplan, which was one of the New York Times 10 best books of the year. The reviews on this are great. There's a fantastic review in the New York Times by a Black actor who is currently performing in Hamlet, I think Hamlet, in Central Park, in Shakespeare in the Park. So he's acting the part. He's thinking about Shakespeare, performing Shakespeare, and then on the subway ride home, he's reading this book and grappling with Shakespeare as a Black actor. And he says that it contributes to an essential discussion on Shakespeare and race, one that must include literary scholars, historians, etymologists, audiences, and yes, even actors. Let us all debate and think critically about the issues Kareem Cooper raises. At the end of the day, such tough love can guide us to truly love Shakespeare. So there's The Great White Bard.
Love it.
Great end of summer, thoughtful, like
Thoughtful, yeah.
serious read. If you want,
You talk about Shakespeare in the Park. I've never seen that or done that. I want to do that. I think
it's
that
so
needs
much
to be on
fun.
my bucket list.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I've
Yeah.
only done it a couple times.
Yeah, I need to do that. So
Yeah.
it doesn't talk about Shakespeare being a woman.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think so.
I love
Also,
that.
Ashland, Julie, on this.
That's on
book,
my bucket list.
Yeah,
Ashland.
Ashland is great to go see Shakespeare.
Okay.
I'm a
need to
big,
Ashland, Oregon.
I see a lot of
Do
Shakespeare.
you? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I
Um,
need to put that on my bucket
yeah.
list then.
Not to sound pretentious, but
No, I love it. I love it. This is like, give me the scoop.
yeah.
Give me
but
what the cool things to do.
Ashland, Oregon,
Okay.
amazing Shakespeare festival.
Do they have
Yeah.
like all the Renaissance stuff all around?
And it's
it
like
stuff?
outside, like
Yeah.
yeah. I grew up in Santa Cruz, California, and there's a Shakespeare festival there that I got brought to every year. So
Probably
and
easier
you
for me
saw
to
it-
get up to Oregon versus New York anyway.
Yeah.
So
you saw it in the forest, like the redwood forest and stuff, and like,
woo,
so that's always really fun. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love it. All right, Julia, lightning round. What do you got? for
Okay.
us?
I brought an old one that I'm guessing nobody has ever presented to this group because it's also a kid's book, but it's one of my favorite books that we do. And it's called We Are the Ship, The Story of Negro League Baseball by Kadir Nelson. Kadir Nelson
Oh,
is
yeah.
one of those artists that I like stalk on Instagram and wish that I could afford any of his art.
Awesome.
It's just so beautiful. He's such an amazing artist. He does these like great, I don't know if you can see that one's not as good.
But I
um,
bet that one in person is amazing.
Yeah. And so like it's these beautiful sort of like paintings of the stars of the Negro League in baseball. And then also the story of Negro League baseball. So since we're smack dab in the middle of baseball season, I thought I would bring a baseball book, and perhaps y'all know by now that I'm a huge baseball fan. And so so yeah, I just wanted to bring that because I think it's such a great book, not just for kids too. Like I like to read it, and I've like given it to other friends of mine who are big baseball fans. I think sometimes, the Negro League, and if you haven't been in Kansas City, there's a great museum called the Negro League Hall of Fame that's really amazing. But I think sometimes, like when you're just watching a baseball game, it's easy to sort of forget about this history. And it's such an amazing history. These players were so incredible, and like, I think to be just a stats nerd for 1 second, it's like we'll never know sort of like who the best at anything was, because these statistics for until the 1940s are not there.
Right.
And so like until Jackie Robinson comes in to the Brooklyn Dodgers, there's just not statistics that actually measure who the best of anything was. And I mean, one might argue that women still aren't included, so we really don't even still have good statistics. But That's an argument for a different
That's
day.
a whole, we
Um,
can have a whole other, we can have a whole other Zoom about that.
yeah,
Stay
exactly.
tuned.
Don't worry, I have a League of Their Own book coming. We can have that discussion then. And, but yeah,
Did you petition Hachette to make sure they bought that book, Julia?
I would have if I didn't, if it wasn't already in the pipeline when they hired me. So anyway, just We Are the Ship by Kadir Nelson. Just an amazing, a beautiful art, and also just a really great sort of history for kids.
Diane has a question. She says, is Buck O'Neill mentioned in the Negro League book? Do you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
There we go. All right, Gabe.
Number 2. So the last book I'm discussing is an old Harper favorite. We published Garth's first book here in the States a zillion years ago, when I was new at Harper.
I love this cover.
It's a great cover. So it's Sir Hereward and Mr. Fitz. Sir Hereward is the only male child of an ancient society of witches. He's an artillerist, a swordsman, a mercenary for hire, and an ill-starred lover. And Mr. Fitz is a puppet, a sorcerer, lore master, practitioner of arcane arts, and the wielder of sorcerous needles. And these are short stories collected. Some have been I think all actually, except one, have been previously published here and there. But this is the first time so we're basically calling this Garth Nix's adult debut. 8 stories, 1 original, and most people won't have. I mean, actually, his audience is pretty hardcore. A lot of people might have read him, but as they've been published through time. But just something a little special, a little fun. They're relentless travelers in this treacherous world of magic, and together they work to overcome evil and solve issues that arise that endanger them. And it's the really fun characters. I like the R.R. Martin quote. The George R.R. Martin quote. I loved making the acquaintance of Sir Hereward and Mr. Fitz. If you haven't met them yet, you're in for a treat. They're the best partnership in the world of fantasy since Fafred and Grey Mouser, which are Fritz Lieber's protagonists, who wrote for a long time. Straight up fantasy stuff. So something that's a lot of fun. You can read it in small doses if you're not necessarily a fantasy reader. I think these are still, I'm tough on fantasy. I demand a lot from my fantasy, and I'm a big fan of Garth Nix.
I love it though too, because that to me is a good fan. It's like sometimes like, okay, they have the books that like stretch our brains, and then a fantasy just like, you just let yourself go. You just kind of let yourself go with it, because you have to stretch your brain a little bit, but it's in a different way.
Yeah.
Where it's a little just more like, oh, this is fun. So, yeah. All right, Tom, before you get started, Tom, on your last one, I have to tell you, so our book club pick was The Displacements.
I was thinking about that this weekend. Yes.
That we talked about on Wednesday, and then Hurricane Hill. I am not going to be allowed to pick a book anymore.
Right. within days, you conjure.
Within 2 days, because my friends in the book club, they were just like, it made me think about like packing, where am I gonna go, and making a plan and all this stuff, and I was just like, oh my god. So between like what happened in Hawaii and FEMA dealing with that, and then I was like, okay, I'm not ever picking a book again.
Right, exactly. Well, in that book, and this storm makes you think like this is the first in a long time or ever, but it's not going to be the last.
I know, that's what my daughter is like. This could be the new trend. So, and it could only get worse. So it was, but anyway, so if you
read the Displacements at your own risk.
Read the Displacement. It really was good though. It just like, because here was the critique on it a little bit was, and not so much a critique, but that it's really not about the storm.
Yeah.
Hence the title. The Displacements, it's about, so one person wanted it to be about the storm, and it's like, no, there's no protagonist that's there in Miami to talk about what the storm is. They've all left.
Right.
So it's all about
that's like that's a disaster movie where
correct
you go through the disaster with the
right. And so this is like, no, this is all the stuff that happens that you don't even think about
Right.
that, so anywho, well, Tom,
Okay.
close us
Sorry.
out.
Okay. So that my book is I'm Not Done With You Yet by Jessie Sutanto. So you may remember her as the author of Dial A for Aunties
Mhm.
and Four Aunties in a Wedding. So this just shows you can tell from the cover, we're not dealing with aunties here. This is
No,
a terrifying cover. So she's showing her versatility. Obviously she can write in any genre because the aunties books were just pure fun. In this book, and I love it, we all love any book that, especially thrillers about writers and publishing. So here you have a mid-list writer who's barely getting by, living in the Bay Area, barely able to cover her mortgage. She's not happy. And she's also a self-described sociopath. But the one person who was her friend, who she thinks of a lot, was Thalia, who they were in England together in a writing program. And she just keeps thinking about Thalia. And then one day she sees Thalia's name at the top of the bestseller list. And she decides, I need to pay a visit to Thalia in New York at this convention where she's about to appear. So this is just the setup for a crazy psychological suspense novel that keeps you turning the pages and lots of twists and turns, obsessions, of course, and it's pretty crazy. So for the end of summer, you want to scare yourself, I'm Not Done With You Yet.
That is, though, pretty amazing that it's the aunties person, because
I love it.
like I kind of love it too, because it's such a different I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I kind of love too that, because they always tell you, oh, don't change, don't change.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, write what you want to write, and your audiences should be able to find you.
Right.
Right.
And it's not always true of publishers are sometimes to blame for keeping you in your box.
Right.
And not to say we won't have more aunties books, because we will,
Right.
but yeah.
Okay, so Kim's on here. Tom, I think this is your book. And I'm gonna screw up the title. Lapidarium. Is that you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So Kim's on here, and so she said she's recommended that to several of her friends who all absolutely love it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Such a beautiful book.
Yeah, so that's a good one.
Yeah.
Speaking of another one of your books, I'm listening to, okay, I realized that a couple things. You guys know me and my mysteries, who I just am like, it's not a good twist. I'm like, but I'm listening to, I realized another thing. I can't listen to books that are mysteries because they're too slow.
Oh, you really
It's-
want to turn those pages.
Oh my God, I want to turn the pages. So I'm listening to Everybody Here Is Lying.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone Here Is Lying, the Sherry Lapina. That's yours too,
Lapena.
Tom, right?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So I'm listening to that. I have it at like 1.5.
Is that fast enough?
It's just like, let's go. But it's making me so anxious because it's like going so.
The pressure's on. No, 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 no.
I'm driving up to LA and it's like, this is probably not a good thing to be in the car. Listening to this. Just like,
That is not the anxiety you were looking to.
no.
It's
So
not what
it's-
you're looking for. Yeah.
Right. But that's what I was thinking. It's just like for the mysteries, it's like when they start out, they're just like their readings. And it's just like, oh no, come on, we got to get going here. Let's go.
Don't
let's
you
go.
know what you're reading here? You're
Let's
reading
go.
this
We got a
yourself.
mystery here.
Get to the meat.
Let's get to this. Let's get
Get
to
to the
it.
twist. Where's the twist?
Where's the twist? Damn it. Anyways, it's good. I've only got like maybe 8 more chapters left. So
Ooh, all right.
But-
You approve so far, but we'll wait till-
everybody is lying.
Yes.
It is like
Great premise too.
there's no doubt everyone is lying. So I can't wait to see how it's all gonna
Yeah.
wrap up. All right, everybody. I'm hoping that whoever you are in California, that you were safe from everything. And the rest of the weather that's going on across the country. Everybody stay safe, happy reading, and we will see you next Monday with some more good reads. So y'all have a good week. Bye.